war-torn town where no church bell would stay tuned. They said the dead could hear your boots beneath that copper moon. I found the spurs in a cedar box behind the livery walls, silver teeth and leather straps with no man's name at all. Old man Briggs said leave 'em sleeping, they belonged to Caleb Rains. He rode one night to clear his name and never broke those chains. Don't wear the silver spurs, boy. Don't let them kiss your heel. They'll take you where the coyotes prey and make the dead things kneel. You may ride out as a living man, but you won't return the same. Don't wear the silver spurs that still remember rains. Caleb loved the mayor's daughter, lily of the pale blue dress, but her father sold a promise for a railroad man's address. They found that railroad fellow with a knife beside the well. Caleb swore his hands were empty, but the town had a rope to sell. Don't wear the silver spurs, boy. Don't let them kiss your heel. They'll take you where the coyotes prey and make the dead things kneel. You may ride out as a living man, but you won't return the same. Don't wear the silver spurs that still remember rains. I buckled them at sundown just to hear the old lyre ring. My horse went stiff beneath me like he'd seen an unseen thing. Past the dry wash, past the bone tree, past a grave with bridal lace. I heard Lily calling Caleb with my own voice on her face. Don't wear the silver spurs, boy. Don't let them kiss your heel. Some graves don't want forgiveness. Some truth cut through the seal. By morning St. Elmo knew it. The mayor's hands bore stains, and I rode off behind Caleb, wearing silver dust and chains. They found the spurs at daybreak on the courthouse steps laid crossed. But every night near St. Elmo, two riders count the lost. Chapel west of Dry Cross, where the roof lets in the sand. There's a Bible on the pulpit with a bullet through its hand. I was preacher to the guilty, kept their secrets, took their bread. Men would kneel with dust on their boots, leave with lighter hearts instead. And my own son came at midnight with his shirt all dark and torn. Said, "Pa, I left a man not breathing by the fence line in the storm." Turn the page, turn it slow. There are things the Lord will know. You can hide a body under stone, you can wash a knife in snow, but the word don't die from silence, and the grave don't keep control. There's a Bible with a bullet hole reading judgment to my soul. I took his pistol from the table, wrapped the barrel in my coat, buried truth beneath the floorboards where I preached on saving hope. They blamed the drifter out of Laredo with a scar beneath one eye. He said, "Preacher, tell them different," but I let the poor man die. Turn the page, turn it slow. There are things the Lord will know. You can hide a body under stone, you can wash a knife in snow, but the word don't die from silence, and the grave don't keep control. There's a Bible with a bullet hole reading judgment to my soul. Last night the chapel filled with hoof dust, though the door stayed nailed in tight. That drifter stood beside the altar with no shadow in the light. He didn't curse me, didn't touch me, only pointed to the floor. And the Bible split wide open to the sin I paid for. Turn the page, turn it slow. Let the desert witness know I love my blood more than mercy. Now mercy won't let go. If they find me by the pulpit with my son's name carved in coal, leave that Bible with a bullet hole reading judgment to my soul. At dawn the chapel door swung open, and the floorboards all lay bare. No preacher, son, or drifter, just one spent shell on the chair. No tracks run west of Hollow Mesa, no station lights the plain, but every year on All Souls Evening you can hear a midnight train. I was hired to guard a strong box full of silver, deeds, and gold. The banker said no man will know it, but greed don't do what it is told. 5 riders came with flour sack faces. I knew each voice by name. I kept my rifle pointed downward while the passengers screamed in flame. Lord, don't stop that train for me. Let it thunder past the stone. There's a ticket in my pocket for a seat I don't want owned. If the whistle starts a-wailing where no iron rails remain, you best pray you ain't been summoned by the train beneath the mesa. A mother held her baby crying. A preacher clutched his book. I saw the fire take the curtains, and I still turned back to look. They gave me half the stolen silver, wrapped in canvas stained with smoke. I bought a ranch near San Lorenzo, but no seed I planted woke. Lord, don't stop that train for me. Let it thunder past the stone. There's a ticket in my pocket for a seat I don't want owned. If the whistle starts a-wailing where no iron rails remain, you best pray you ain't been summoned by the train beneath the mesa. Now the cattle won't cross water, and the well gives only rust. My wife hears wheels at supper, dragging sparks across the dust. Last night I found a burned out lantern swinging cold above my gate, and a child's small handprint in the ashes on the silver dinner plate. Lord, don't stop that train for me, but it's slowing by the stone. There's a conductor with no eyelids calling, passenger, come home. I can smell the smoke of judgment, I can hear the couplings chain. Tonight I pay the fare forever on the train beneath the mesa. At dawn they found my ranch house empty. All the silver turned to black, and out past Hollow Mesa there were fresh rails in the sand. Undertaker kept a lantern burning blue beside the door. Said it never lit for living men, only debts unpaid before. I rode in late from Mercy Station with a broken spur and cough. My coat was stiff with desert salt, my Bible pages soft. There were no cards upon the table, no piano in the room, just a glass turned upside down there like it knew I'd come too soon. Don't light the lantern, mister, don't hang my name in pine. I still got one more mile to answer, one more sin that still ain't mine. But the wind said keep on walking, and the stars went pale and still. When the undertaker's lantern burns, somebody pays the bill. Blame me for the banker's killing by the well at Abilene. I saw the man who fired the pistol, but fear kept my mouth clean. Now his widow wears my silence like a veil across her face, and every town from here to nowhere spits my shadow out of place. Don't light the lantern, mister, don't hang my name in pine. I still got one more mile to answer, one more sin that still ain't mine. But the wind said keep on walking, and the stars went pale and still. When the undertaker's lantern burns, somebody pays the bill. Midnight by the rattlesnake crossing, I heard a wagon in the sand. No wheels, no team, no driver, just a coffin with my hand. The lid was carved with scripture, the nails were cold and bright, and inside lay the guilty man wearing my face in the light. So light the lantern, mister, let it burn against the sky. Some truths crawl out of shallow graves when every lie runs dry. Tell the widow I was yellow, but I carried what I killed. When the undertaker's lantern burns, somebody pays the bill. Morning found 2 sets of boot prints where the dust had turned to red. One walked east toward judgment, one stopped beside the dead. Chapel lost its steeple in a storm nobody saw, but a rusted where the vein kept turning like it answered high and low. I was sheriff down in Ashland, wore my star above my life. Folks would tip their hats on Sunday, never meeting both my eyes. A drifter came with papers proving what the mayor stole. I locked him in the smokehouse and let winter take its toll. Turn, turn, weather vane, point where the guilty run. North to the graveyard, west to the setting sun. If the iron rooster screams when the desert wind goes still, Crowbone Chapel knows your name and it's pointing to the hill. He had one cracked pair of spectacles spectacles and a coat too thin for snow. Said, "Sheriff, read this letter. There's a widow needs to know." I fed the stove with his confession, watched the ashes climb and twist. By morning all the town was warmer, and my badge felt cold as grist. Turn, turn, weather vane, point where the guilty run. North to the graveyard, west to the setting sun. If the iron rooster screams when the desert wind goes still, Crowbone Chapel knows your name, and it's pointing to the hill. Last night above the chapel ruins, that vane spun against the sky. No wind moved through the sagebrush, no coyote dared reply. Then the rooster bent its iron head and crowed like Judgment Day, and the drifter stood behind me with snow that would not melt away. Turn, turn, weather vane, now point your beak at me. A badge can shine in daylight and still rust underneath. If they find my star at sunrise on the chapel windowsill, tell Ashland I was summoned where the vane points to the hill. Crowbone Chapel lost its steeple, but the town still checks the sky, for that rooster turns its sun down when another liar dies. Raven draw had one card table where dust would never lie, and a deck locked in a strong box that could deal the way men die. I dealt cards for hungry ranchers under lanterns swinging low, kept an ace beneath my sleeve cuff, kept my conscience moving slow. A farmer bet his daughter's dowry, his mule, his land, his name. I turned the black ace over and smiled like luck was tame. Don't deal the black ace, mister. Don't let that dark card fall. It remembers every trembling hand that reached and lost it all. When the raven taps the window and the whiskey turns to clay, the black ace rides at midnight to collect what gamblers pay. The farmer walked out wordless, hat pulled down against the rain. His daughter stood beside the hitch rail with her wedding dress in a grain sack. I heard she married no man, heard he vanished by the creek. But every card I touched thereafter felt like bones against my cheek. Don't deal the black ace, mister. Don't let that dark card fall. It remembers every trembling hand that reached and lost it all. When the raven taps the window and the whiskey turns to clay, the black ace rides at midnight to collect what gamblers pay. Last night the strong box opened with no key inside my hand. The deck spread out before me like a graveyard in the sand. Then that girl in faded muslin sat across from me alone. Said, "Deal it fair this time, sir," in a voice like turning stone. Don't deal the black ace, mister, but my fingers knew the way. It slid out black as judgment where my last good prayer should lay. Now the chair across is empty and the dawn won't speak my name. The black ace rides at midnight and I lost my soul the same. A raven draw has one card table where the dust still will not lie, and the dealer in the corner keeps an ace in his dead eye. Mercy Sword had one tall clock tower leaning west above the square. It never chimed for weddings, only guilt that gathered there. I kept the gears and oiled the hands, wound the hour every night. The mayor paid me $40 to make one wrong hour right. A boy named Thomas wore the rope for a killing he denied. His pardon crossed the county line while I held back the time. When the clock strikes 13, don't you stand beneath that sound. Every bell you bend for silver brings the dead back into town. There's no dust deep enough for a lie to sleep unseen. Mercy comes too late, boys, when the clock strikes 13. His sister brought a basket with warm bread wrapped in white. Said, "Sir, my brother's innocent. The governor wrote last night." I looked down at the letter, then looked up toward the rope, and the minute hand above me turned as heavy as a stone. When the clock strikes 13, don't you stand beneath that sound. Every bell you bend for silver brings the dead back into town. There's no dust deep enough for a lie to sleep unseen. Mercy comes too late, boys, when the clock strikes at midnight, though no wind can reach that high. And a boy with rope-burned collar counts the hours with my eyes. Last night the gears stopped turning, but the hammer still came down. 13 strokes across the desert, 13 graves around the town. When the clock strikes 13, don't you beg the Lord for more. Every borrowed minute comes collecting at your door. I spent $40, lost one soul I couldn't clean. Now my name is in the tower where the clock strikes 13. At dawn they found the clock face cracked, my boots below the stair, and one warm loaf beside me with Thomas written there. Salt River ain't held water since the winter '82, but a boat still scrapes the sand there when the moon burns pale and blue. I was marshaled down in Dry Mercy with a badge as cold as tin. I sold safe passage through the canyon to the men I should have pinned. I took coins from trembling fingers, watched their wagons cross the white. Then I told the raiders where to find them before they made the ridge by night. Pay the ferryman, pay him slow, lay your silver in the sand below. The river's dry, but the dead still roll where the salt wind calls your name. No prayer gets over, no horse gets through. When the boatman turns his eyes on you, pay the ferryman, pay him true, or ride back wearing shame. There's one small boy from Carson with a red scarf at his throat. He asked me if the stars could hear him when his mother missed the road. I still see that scarf at sundown, caught on every cactus spine, and every coin I ever pocketed turns to salt inside my wine. Pay the ferryman, pay him slow, lay your silver in the sand below. The river's dry, but the dead still roll where the salt wind calls your name. No prayer gets over, no horse gets through. When the boatman turns his eyes on you, pay the ferryman, pay him true, or ride back wearing shame. Last night my badge cracked open like an egg beneath my hand. Inside was that red scarf folded with a child's name written in sand. And I heard oars in the darkness, though no water kissed the shore, and the ferryman raised one finger like it counted me before. Pay the ferryman, pay him slow, lay your silver in the sand below. The river's dry, but the dead still roll, and tonight they roll for me. No badge can bargain, no lie can stand. When the boatman reaches from the sand, Pay the ferryman, pay him true, then sink where no one sees. At dawn they found my holster and my badge gone dull with brine. Salt River ain't held water, but the sand was wet in the line. North of Mercy Hill, the mine shaft, breeze cold air at noon, and one small candle keeps on burning where no flame should find a room. I was foreman for the silver, kept the payroll, kept the key. When the timber started crying, I told the boys it's safe with me. 12 men went down singing with their lunch pails in their hands. I heard the mountains split above them and signed papers for their land. There's a candle in the silver mine, burning where the dead men sleep. It don't need oil, it don't need air, it just waits for debts to speak. If you hear a pickaxe knocking from the dark below the pines, say your last prayer quiet by the candle in the silver mine. Their wives came wearing flower dust dresses, children holding empty tins. I said the earth took honest workers while I sold their claims again. One boy handed me his father's watch, said, "Sir, he'll want this back." I kept it in my vest for years, but it never did keep track. There's a candle in the silver mine, burning where the dead men sleep. It don't need oil, it don't need air, it just waits for debts to speak. If you hear a pickaxe knocking from the dark below the pines, say your last prayer quiet by the candle in the silver mine. Last night that watch struck midnight with no hands upon its face. In my bedroom filled with coal dust and a hymn from underground grace, I saw 12 lamps come rising one by one along the wall, and the boy's small voice behind me said, "Foreman, Pa heard you call." There's a candle in the silver mine, and tonight it burns for me. No gold can close a mountain, no lie can turn the key. If they find my vest at sunrise near the shaft with no decline, tell the widows I went walking to the candle in the silver mine. They searched till Sunday morning, found no boot print, bone or sign, just a dead watch softly ticking by the candle in the silver mine.